Hello YouTube, and welcome to the second video in the series Onboard, where we take you on board different aircraft in FSX. Today we'll be on board a Boeing 757-200 modeled by CaptainSim in the livery of the virtual airline that I fly for, Westwind. We're going to start, as we always do, in flight dispatch as we look at the flight plan and loadout of the aircraft. Our flight today will be a passenger flight from Minneapolis, Minnesota to Los Angeles, California. So let's head over to the flight dispatch now. So we'll look down here at our flight dispatch page, and it's got the usual information, flight number, which is 5940 today, distance, date and times off. We are a passenger flight today. This is what we're mainly concerned with, which is our flight plan, which is the SHEP 8 departure out of Minneapolis to the O'Neill VOR, Sydney VOR, Remling VOR, Grand Junction, Bryce Canyon, then the Juliet 60 airway to Hector, and finally the River to arrival in Los Angeles. And so that's what we put here, and we've got, from our briefing, we have flight level 380 today, 152 passengers on board, and a total payload of 37,140 pounds, obviously plus the fuel that we're going to take, which is going to be, I believe, about 31,000 pounds today. So let's go look at the actual briefing paper from our dispatcher. We'll do that right now. And so this is SimBrief. This is what I use for my flight planning. A little plug for them. Great program. But all my pertinent information is here. Our air time today is about 3 hours and 11 minutes, plus or minus some for the winds. Our alternate today is going to be Ontario. Flight level 380, as I mentioned earlier. Block fuel is 30.7 thousand pounds, so just under 31. Our total zero fuel weight today is going to be 168,800 pounds. And here's our route. So we talked about a little bit ago, from Minneapolis on down, all the way to Los Angeles. And then SimBrief also gives us all kinds of special details and weather briefings and NOTAMs. I'm not going to go over all of this with you because we'd be here forever. So, but as the pilot flying, it's my responsibility to be aware of this and to make sure we're taking into account. But a lot of the pertinent information for fuel burn and flight planning is also here in a more detailed fashion. This is kind of the flyover version. So, depending on which you want to use for your realism, you have that option. So again, great program. It's free. They do ask that you donate if you enjoy it, but it is a wonderful program to use. SimBrief.com. Alright, so let's look at, we need to look at these two plates because we're going to be using these departures and arrivals. So we need to look up this is actually the SHEP 8 now. I don't have the updated AirAx nav data, so I had to scale it back to SHEP 5 so it would know what it was. These change in certain little areas, they tweak them. For flight sim purposes this will be fine because FSX doesn't know anything beyond what it was created with originally either, so SHEP 5 will be fine. So we're going to look at the SHEP 8, which is actually what the current chart is, to see what that departure looks like, and then the River 2. Okay, here is the plate for the SHEP 8 departure out of Minneapolis. Again, these are accessed, I get these off of airnav.com. That works great for most plates and terminal maps in the US. However, once you leave the United States, you're going to need to find websites that have those. A lot of the VATSIM websites have links to appropriate plates, but you kind of have to go searching the internet for plates once you get outside of the US. So for the US it's easy, but outside you'll have to do some research. But here we are, Minneapolis here. This is turned on its side, and I think for the video I will probably try and see if I can turn it the other way on its side so it's easier to read. But this is the orientation of the plate. But basically you see that it is a kind of straight out departure. We're going to be going toward the O'Neill VOR, not the Wolbach VOR. So once we get to Worthington, Oscar Tango Golf, we will be splitting and heading on the 052 radial. But there are a few altitude restrictions, either to be above or below, so we're going to take note of those. and make sure we're paying attention to those as we take off. The instructions for this are on page 2. This is just the map of it, and so I will show you that here in a second. So here's the instructions, and this is for takeoff for all runways. We're going to fly our assigned heading for radar vectors, which is probably going to be the runway heading altitude. We're going to eventually fly for vectors to the Minneapolis VOR from radial 232 to the Shep intersection. Turbojet aircraft maintain 7,000 or lower assigned altitude. All other aircraft maintain 5,000 or lower. So we are turbojet. We will be 7,000 or lower. Let's see here. And then it goes into some specifics for different runways, and so we will pay attention to those precisely when we find out what our assigned runway is going to be. Via the transition, assigned route, expect clearance to final altitude, flight 10 minutes after departure. From the O'Neill transition, or for the O'Neill transition rather, we're looking for from the Shep intersection on the MSP-232 radial to the OTG radial Oscar Tango Golf, that's at Worthington VOR, and then from the Worthington VOR R236 to the O'Neill VORTAC, and from there it's our flight plan. Beyond that, it just gives us obstacle notes, so things to be aware of that are close to the ground so we don't hit them. Always a good plan while flying. And let's go ahead and take a look at the river to arrival now. Alright, and this is another one that's oriented kind of annoyingly, and so I'll probably try and flip this for the video when so if you see it looking horizontal, then I went ahead and did that. If not, I didn't. Sorry. But here we go. We're going to be coming from the Hector VOR. That's our transition waypoint. So from Hector, we're going to be heading down to the Graham intersection, over to Rust, and then on through past the river intersection and into LA. Again, this is it on this page. Very simple. Just basically tells you what I just did with more precision. So we can read that plate and follow any altitude restrictions that there are there. Although a lot of those are going to be subject to air traffic control, which is going to be given to us by FSX ATC, which doesn't recognize stars. So it kind of will just be a crapshoot. Okay, here we are on the flight line at Minneapolis. The aircraft is being catered at the moment, and so we're going to go ahead and do our walk around. Come out looking at the nose cone and the pitot tubes here. Check the main gears, the nose gear strut rudder. Tires, looking for wear, any abnormalities, anything we need to be aware of. Side of the radar. Around the caterer here. Check the static ports here by the loader. Issues. Here's the wing and the landing lights. Engine strut of the Pratt & Whitney engines here. Which is windmilling ever so slightly. And leading edge of the wing. Any leaks. Signs of damage. On the back side here. Check the exhaust port. Engine. Some problems. Tires, main gears, strut. Gators continuing to load the aircraft. Graphical issue there. AQ port, stabilizer, horizontal stabilizers. Side. Checking the main gear. Trailing edge of the wing. number 1. Pylon looks good. No obvious damage on the fan blades. Ring light. And static ports over here. Alright. On the walk-around inspection, everything looks good. So we're going to go head up to the cockpit. I will see you up there. Alright, here we are on the airplane. Let's come into the cockpit here. Go ahead and have a seat. Alright, and here on the cockpit we're going to be doing our just kind of starting cockpit checks, so bear with me as I go through that here. Turn all of our IRSs onto nav and verify they'll go to a line, which they do. Our electric pumps we're going to leave off. Our engine pumps are going to be on in preparation for engine start. Battery is on already by the ground crew. Standby power is auto. APU is already running. These are set to on, and the bus ties are auto. APU is running. Good test. Stop it. Good test of the voice recorder. Emergency lights are armed. Heaters on. Ram turbine is stowed. Today is the 23rd, so we're going to be using the odd number for engine start. Start switches are on auto. Pumps are off. Fuel is loaded. Anti-ice is off. Wipers are off. Position lights are on. All others are off. Passenger signs, no smoking on, seatbelts are off at the moment, and this should be auto rate, it is, and landing altitude at LA is like 50 feet, it's nothing, so go ahead and set 50, alright. Lights to on, lights to bright, APU is running, so we'll turn on the isolation switch and the main valve, and packs to on, trim air to on, and all to auto, good. Alright, coming down to the captain's instruments here, check these are correct. The altimeter setting, clock is right. Turn those to on, I like having those on. Flight director on, these are off. We'll set this in a little bit. Flight director on. Statuses here. Okay. And this should be off. Start switches are off. Radios. Transponder is standby. And we all good. Alright. Alright, I believe our caterers are done, so we're going to go ahead and get the passengers boarding. You'll hear them boarding in the background, something we didn't deal with on the cargo flight. And we're going to program the FMS. So first thing we're going to do is enter the position. So our reference airport is KMSP. Kilo Mike Sierra Papa. From KMSP to KLAX. Today's flight number is... What is today's flight number? I forgot.
Morning.
5940. 940.
Morning.
Go ahead and activate that. And departure day is going to be the Shep 5. The O'Neill transition. I don't know the runway yet, so we're not going to worry about that quite yet. Let's see here. Go back to our route page. And putting in our route is going to be the O'Neill to SNY. To RLG. To JC. And here we get a, BCE first. Bryce Canyon. Next page. And then we're going to take the J60. To enter. Alright. And the arrival is going to be the River 2.
Hi, morning. Hi, morning.
Yep. Activate that.
Morning.
And we should now see, yep, there's our route line on our...
Hi, morning.
Okay, so our initializations here, our 0 fuel weight is going to be 1688. 8.8. What are our reserves today? Briefing here. Looks like we're D-lining right now. Once I get it here and add it up.
Morning.
About 7.5.
Hi, morning.
Cruise altitude is 380. Cost index is 80. And we're not stepping today. Takeoff, flaps 5, departure. Don't tell me insufficient fuel. This thing gets all hot and bothered about the weirdest things. And negative 1 degree C. What's the rest of it?
Hello.
Yeah,
Morning.
V speeds. And we're complete. So V2 is 148. So we're going to set in the speed range 148 plus 15. So that is 158. 163. There you go. So 163 V2 plus 15. V1 was 140. Actually, V2 48. Right there. Rotate 43. And V1 is 140. Alright, so our bugs are set. And let's check our checklist here. I have discovered a nice checklist for my phone called Flight List Plus, which is what I use, that I can make up checklists based on the manuals for these things. So that is what I'm going to be using today.
Hello.
And the oxygen is aircraft, so not really.
Hello.
It's there. Oh, pull that off.
Morning.
It's already on. Good. So no smoke seatbelt signs are on and off, respectively, which they are. Flight instruments just set. Parking brake is set, and fuel control switches are cut off.
Morning.
And then we'll do the before engine checklist when we get ready to start. I will put in the description the name of the checklist app that I've been using, so you guys can get that if you want. I just kind of figuring it out, but I've got a checklist now for my 727 and this 757. Like it so far. And yeah, let me know if you find something that's better out there that you like better, because I'm always open to find that stuff. And it sounds like loading is pretty much done. However, our off time here isn't until 17:17, so we're going to give it some more time. So I'll let you go, and I'll have you join me when we get ready to go. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, from the flight deck. This is your captain speaking. I want to welcome you aboard this Westwind Boeing 757-200. This is flight 5940 with service to Los Angeles. We will be pushing back from the gate shortly. However, I would like to remind you as you're getting settled in to make sure your carry-ons and other belongings are securely stowed in either the overhead bins or under the seat in front of you. We also ask that you ensure your tray tables and seat backs are in their full and upright position in preparation for takeoff. Whenever the seatbelt sign is on, you must be in your seat with your seatbelt securely fastened. In a few minutes, the flight attendants will begin providing a safety briefing. Please pay special attention to it. We'll be underway as soon as we are de-iced due to the cold weather here. Our flight time today is estimated to be about 3.5 hours, and our flight path will take us southwest into Nebraska, just north of Denver, over Grand Junction, Colorado, into southern Utah, over Las Vegas, and into Los Angeles. Our expected cruise altitude will be 38,000 feet. Please sit back, relax, and enjoy the flight. Alright, let's go ahead and get our clearance from air traffic control here.
Minneapolis clearance delivery, Westwind 5940, this type, Boeing, IFR, Los Angeles, ready to copy.
Westwind 5940, cleared Los Angeles Airport as filed. Fly runway heading, climb and maintain altitude 12,000. Departure frequency is 126.9, squawk 0113.
Westwind 5940, cleared Los Angeles Airport as filed. Fly runway heading, climb and maintain altitude 12,000. Departure on 126.5, squawk 0113.
Westwind 5940, correct. Contact ground on 121.8.
Got our transponder is on standby right now. We'll leave that on standby until we get to the runway, and then we'll turn that on at that time. Trim set, we still haven't done that yet, and I believe that was supposed to be 2.25, so we will set that now. It's approximately there. And okay. We have about 3 minutes till departure, so I'm going to go ahead and get us ready at this point. We're all boarded, so we're going to shut the doors, and because I think we're going to have to get de-iced, so. Do that, and we're going to call for our, actually, you know what I'm going to do first? I'm going to call for clearance.
Minneapolis ground, Westwind 5940, with information, Tango, request taxi IFR. Westwind 5940, taxi holding point, runway 22, via taxiway Delta, Charlie, Charlie 10, contact tower on 123.905 when ready. Westwind 5940, hold position, caution other traffic. Taxiing hold short, runway 22, via taxiway Delta, Charlie, Charlie 10, Westwind 5940.
Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and get the ground crew here going. And prepare for pushback and departure. Yes, we would like ice treatment. Okay, we had a slight problem. The flight sim crashed right as we were getting ready to push back because I tried to check something and I shouldn't have. So, we're back here. I've set everything back up. I think it's back to how it was, and so hopefully the minor indiscrepancies like the squawk code has changed. And we've now been given a runway 4 instead of 2-2. I don't know what happened with the wind, but whatever. So anyway, they're hooked up. As you can hear, they're asking me to release the parking brake, so I need to go through my cockpit checks here real quick before engine start, so I'm going to do that. Windows are locked. Cockpit door is now locked. Mode control panel is set. The airspeed bugs are set. CDU is set. Trim is set 2.25.
Release parking brake.
Beacon on. Fuel quantity is set and checked. We have 30,800 pounds on board. Doors, cabin doors rather, are locked, and let me just verify on here. Yes, good, okay. And seatbelt signs to on. Okay.
Release parking brake.
We're ready for engine start. So now I will release the parking brake.
Commencing push. All engines clear. Start that wheel.
Alright, oh, that's right, we were using starter 1. I'm going to turn the packs off. Set for starting. Fuel pumps on. And turning 2. And we have N2. Oil pressure is rising. Beyond 18% N2, we're good to start once the engine finishes motoring up here, and fuel on. Stabilizing. Go ahead and start number 1. Oil pressure rising, N2 is rising. Fuel on. Engines are started, so we're going to turn our neck bleeds on and packs back on. Set the ignition actual because of that. Switch these to continuous. Set the hydraulic panel. Isolation valve off. Brakes to RTO, flaps to 5.
Set parking brake.
Alright, after start checklist, engine anti-ice is required. We are going to turn anti-ice on because of the weather today. Isolation switch is on. Packs are on. Recall.
Tow truck disconnected. Flight must be removed.
Brake brakes on note. Auto brakes are RTO. Flight controls. Let's check our flight controls real quick. One up, one down. One up, one down. Two down. Two up.
Left is clear. Right is clear.
Left rudder. And right rudder. Alright. Flight controls are 3 and 0. 3 correct, sorry. And ground equipment is clearing. Clear moment. Alright, so after start checklist is complete, we're all clear. And we're good to go. Turn our taxi lights on. Strobes on. And we'll turn our helm flood off. There we go. So we're rolling at 17:25. Our gate departure time was 17:17, so we're just a little behind, but that's not bad.
Minneapolis ground 7640 with information. Request taxi IFR. 7640 taxi holding point for runway 4 using taxiway Delta Sierra Delta Kilo 3 Lima 3 Lima Lima 4. Contact tower on 119.975 when ready. Taxi full short runway 4. I have taxiway Delta Sierra Delta Kilo 3 Lima 3 Lima Lima 4. 7640.
Today, but it is severe clear. Sorry about that. Taxiway Sierra. This is going to be the way runway 4 kind of stubs into another runway. We're actually going to have to taxi kind of down the way and around and back around. It's kind of goofy. So we're going to be taxiing down Charlie here to Sierra, and then we're going to hit Delta, Kilo 3 to Lima 3 to Lima, Lima 4, and on to the end of runway 4. While we're taxiing here, you might notice the in the engine ICAST display down here, you've got this little yellow flag on the two engines on the on the N1 indication. What that is an indicator because we have the engine anti-ice on because of the weather, stating that basically it's not really doing its job until we get it up past that point. So that will turn green once we get our N1 reading above that. So it's nothing to be alarmed about. It's just to note the engine anti-ice can't work at its full capacity at this low idle speed. It's Charlie 2. This should be Sierra coming up here in a second, I believe. I hope. Yep, there is taxiway Sierra, so we're going to take that around, and so here's where we're going to go this way and around and around and up and around. For those of you that are curious, this is the CaptainSim 77. I don't know if I mentioned that earlier. But not only that is Delta, right? Yeah. Not only that, but there's not. You may recognize that some of these sounds are not the CaptainSim engine sounds, and that is correct. I also downloaded a different 757, the Quality Wings 77. I got. Because some people at our virtual airline were touting its quality, and I was curious. So I downloaded that. I liked the sound pack for the engines, at least, a little better than the CaptainSim default sounds. And there were some bugs with the CaptainSim default sounds and leaving engine noises on when the engines were off, and things like that. Not always, but sometimes. So I have transplanted, because I like the model and the workings of the CaptainSim better. I like the sounds from the Quality Wings better, so I have kind of made a hodgepodge. So I have integrated the Quality Wings engine sounds into the CaptainSim airplane, which I think makes for a nicer experience, at least for me. So if you are wondering why my engine sounds sound different than yours do, if you have the CaptainSim 757, that is why. There was no way around it. I had to buy the Quality Wings 757 too, so I have that airplane at my disposal, but I like the imported sounds. If you're curious how I did that, feel free to ask in the comment section, and I will kind of help you, guide you through that process if you'd like.